everybody. This is me, Amin.
And this is Alex.
And welcome to another episode of Let's Talk About. And in this episode, we're going to talk about eHailing, specifically Grab, because I guess they're the number one e-hailing provider, and then also AirAsia Ride. The concern is, since the 1st of April, we've been in this endemic transition phase, and basically everything has opened up. There's pretty much no restrictions, except for when you're going indoors and you have to wear your face mask. And sometimes when you go to places, they might request to see your MySejahtera. And the onset of it, the result of that is everybody's been just traveling. For some reason, everybody is just moving around. Traffic has been horrendous. It has not become any better. I think there's like traffic jam almost every day. Not just the weekdays, also the weekends. Everybody's moving around. Everybody's traveling. We get tourists coming in. So the outcome of that is we see people moving around, and obviously people want to return to normal, and they have to move around. And part of being able to return to normal is being able to ride in Grab cars. I have not ridden in a Grab car for, I think, since the start of the pandemic. So I don't know. I mean, but I know a lot of people are using it. And the concern is right now is, why is e-hailing prices so expensive nowadays? If everybody's moving around, Grab riders are allowed to move around freely, why are the prices increasing? Is it because of inflation, or is it because of other things? Obviously, people who are using this service are not happy with the current prices. Okay, let's give some context. How much has the price increased?
Well, according to reports, some saying it shot up as high as 400% during peak hours, and that's crazy. Even like normal hours right now, I think from what I heard from most of the frequent users, they're basically paying much more than before. It's almost like surge all the time.
Like how much more? Like at least double?
At least double. Or sometimes a trip during peak hours, right? It can cost as high as a trip to the airport. Could be like 60 ringgit for getting one end to another end, which what used to be cost like 20, 30 ringgit back then.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's a lot.
The question is, what is causing this increase in prices? Is it because like Grab is trying to earn like more profit or anything? And what is the government doing about it? And does the government even have any power to do anything? People are complaining on social media, and they're asking like, what is the minister doing? And obviously the minister has to say something. So our very popular minister, Dr. Wee Ka Siong, put out a statement to address the matter of increasing prices of e-hailing. So what did he say exactly?
So last month, he told the e-hailing providers to explain the price hike, and his ministry will not hesitate to take action against those who take advantage and to manipulate the price for profit. So he said that, and a few days later, because I think he consulted with the relevant authorities like the Land Public Transport Authority, and he came back to say that the e-hailing providers are actually permitted to set their own fare structure based on the formula and terms of service with their customers in a free market. And he said that typically, the fares consist of two parts, the base fare and the surcharge. And he said that while the government does not regulate the base fare for e-hailing, the surcharge shouldn't be more than 2 times the base fare, taking peak rates and fuel prices into account. So basically, it's like, I saw the problem, but he's not really addressing the issue at hand. So it's like, okay, they're free to set whatever price they want. So we're back to square one.
Basically, he didn't say much. So when he put out the first statement is to say, okay, guys, I'm going to look into this. And apparently he went to go and look into this. And okay, this is what we can do. But there's actually no like real jurisdiction or real control or whatever. Basically, Grab and AirAsia can set whatever prices they want. It's like airline tickets. They can set whatever prices they want. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, like a free market. But he did mention the some of the factors that causes the price increase. Because number one, he mentions that there's increased demand, but there are fewer drivers right now. So from what he said, that there are 30% fewer drivers compared to pre-pandemic level. So there's less drivers on the road. That's one thing. And then to address the surge pricing issue, he said that his ministry will be allocating more resources to increase the number of drivers available. At the same time, they want the e-hailing providers to ramp up their recruitment process.
The cause of the price surge is because there are less drivers.
Compared and increased demand, because such pricing is not new, because we've seen that before during the Uber days. It's not just in Malaysia, it's also happening in US, like for example New Year parties or during Christmas holidays, right? The moment you want to request for Grab or Uber back then, if there's so many demand but not enough supply, then they'll increase the prices, because there are two things here. Number one is to encourage more drivers to go online because we must remember that unlike taxis, Grab and Uber, these e-hailing providers, right, they don't actually hire drivers. They actually they just serve as a platform, and the drivers are the independent workers. So they're free to turn on and turn off whenever they like.
Yeah.
So for example, if the rates are this is the demand right now. If let's say there's no enough drivers, so what they do is they increase the price a bit to incentivize more drivers to go online so that they can take up the jobs.
Okay.
Yeah. So even with that in place, right, it still doesn't address the issue because there's still not enough drivers.
Has Grab come out to say anything about this, or Asia? Have they come out to say anything about this?
Yep. In fact, Zamir actually reached out to both of them, to Grab and Asia. So they came out with a few statements. The firstly is they said that in terms of fare structure, they have never changed. It's still the same as before. That's what they said.
Okay.
But the difference is that the number of e-hailing drivers, active e-hailing drivers, has dropped by 30%, and that's something they are trying to address by increasing number of drivers, because they mentioned that during the pandemic, they noticed that some drivers become less active because obviously during the pandemic, there's a lot of restrictions. You cannot travel interstate.
And I guess they have other priorities as well.
Yeah, so I think those who are used to work as e-hailing drivers, they switch to different carriers that bring in the money.
Yeah, I think they moved to becoming Grab riders,
possibly, or maybe do other business, or maybe they got a better full-time job.
I mean, not during the pandemic though.
Pandemic.
I think now. So because we're seeing reports saying that over the Grab Drivers Malaysia Association, the president said, his name is Arif Ashraf. So he said that they are seeing 30 to 40% of drivers rather not responding to an order or to a call.
That's a second issue also.
Yeah. So if there's such a huge demand for drivers, right? Why are drivers not coming back online?
What I read from complaints from other riders is that the incentives nowadays is not as great as before. Because remember, during the days of Uber and Grab, right, I think they get tons of incentives. Remember, you can hear other people making more than 10,000 ringgit a month doing Grab and Uber.
Yep.
And back then, I think Uber was so competitive that they even pay you incentive for just turning the app on. Even without rides, I pay you.
Like just doing the hours, you get like a bonus.
Correct. And then like if you work doing like peak hours, I pay you this much. I don't care how much the ride costs. If let's say it costs so much to get to the customer, I don't care. You work on these hours, you get the money. So in terms of incentive, I think it's not as great as before, because I think despite having more than 30 e-hailing providers in Malaysia right now, the competition isn't as intense as before.
I guess, but for me, it's like if Grab is saying they're trying to have more riders on the road, right? That it could be as easy as just bringing back the incentives, and the drivers will come back. Yeah. So my theory is like, I mean, from my experience, we're trying to look for more people to join Soy Chin-Chow as well. We have vacancies here, and it's quite difficult to fill the seats because I don't know where people are. People don't want to do jobs or what. I don't know. I feel like everybody has disappeared because I don't know whether you guys relate to this. During Hari Raya, we saw a massive drop in Grab riders. Right, we couldn't get anything delivered. I think the whole month of May, right, we couldn't get anything delivered. I think you experienced the same.
Grab food.
So it was quite difficult to get orders delivered. I think a number of people, when they ordered McDonald's or something, the orders didn't come, or you had to wait like for an hour, for 2 hours. There was just no riders. So we thought that, hey, that's gonna return back to normal in June after the Raya holidays, but I don't see that happening. Even the riders are gone. The funny thing is there is a boom in demand. There's a report from Grab that said that last year alone, people paid over 50 million ringgit worth of tips, just tips, to Grab riders and Grab drivers. So obviously there's a huge piece of the pie here. You get people from Malaysia, local people that want to use the service. You're also getting an influx of tourists. So the question is, where are the drivers? We discussed about this, and you have your theories. I have mine, so I'm gonna share my theory first. So basically, the number one is, during the pandemic, people cannot travel so much, so Grab drivers maybe they drop off, like we talked about, and then my thing is they drop off, but some of them convert into other jobs. So the easiest thing to do is become a rider, because it's just as lucrative. You get deliveries and you get tips. That 50 million piece of pie, right? Now the question is, the search is back, the demand is back, but they're not coming back. And you also have a theory why that happens.
So another thing is that remember back then when the days of Uber and Grab were so competitive, it's easy for anyone to sign up as a e-hailing rider. You just sign on the app. I think the next day you get approved, you can start driving already. And it's open for everyone. You can work as a part-timer. You want to do 1 to 2 hours a day, or want to go all the way to full-time job. So there's options for you. But as we all know, right, the government has stepped in to regulate the e-hailing industry by, requiring them to go through several tests, to acquire the PSV license, and that sets as a barrier for incoming new drivers. So let's say if you want to be an e-hailing driver, you need to think about, I need to sit for exam, go for health checks, and then must pay this and pay that, and then it's not going to be worth it for a part-time e-hailing driver. So it looks more viable as a job opportunity if you want to go to do this job full time. And Grab and eHailing also raised concerns about this as well. So acquiring new drivers is a huge barrier because it takes time for these new drivers to be onboarded to meet this sharp demand. And they highlight that new drivers are required to fulfill various requirements such as 6 hours of training, exams to driving school, vehicle inspection, purchasing insurance, collecting and submitting documents to various government agencies for processing. And this puts a structural limit on the speed of how fast they can get new drivers on board. And to cushion this barrier, Grab says that they're subsidizing up to 100% of the total driver partner costs. And they even offer referral bonuses up to 300 ringgit for existing drivers to get new drivers. And for Asia, right, they also said that there are also concerns about the other costs as well, like for example, insurance. So if you want to get a special insurance to become e-hailing driver, you need to pay as an annual basis. And they suggest that perhaps government can step in and maybe find a way to make it more affordable for like part-time drivers. Maybe come up with a monthly package for insurance for this e-hailing.
Yeah, but I guess I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure whether the economy is the same as it was before. So back then, I guess people are more the priority is free time. They like the flexibility. That's why people quit their jobs and they did Grab because they have that flexibility. I guess my question is so the e-hailing providers are trying to acquire more drivers, but it's a challenge. But what happened to the existing people? Where did they go?
Existing people, I think they're still there because, like they mentioned, right, there's a drop of about 30%. So there's 70% drivers on the platform, which should be okay, right? But here's the thing, like we mentioned earlier about areas out and about is super congested. And based on the report that we've seen earlier, is that there's a lot of drivers who rather turn off the app during peak hours rather than to go after the high search fares. And that's because congestions, and then they find that it's totally not worth it. Because sometimes they said that in the peak hour, you might be stuck in the jam for over an hour.
Which is like a waste of time.
Yeah.
It's literally.
And not just that, as a Grab driver, right, you only get paid once you start picking up the driver, the passenger.
They don't have the timing charges. Like before they had the timing. I mean, they have traffic charges, right? Time-based charges.
There was we were referring to Uber last time. So Uber last time is some sort of similar to taxis. So you pay based on the distance, and also there's a time factor. So let's say you're stuck in the jam longer, you're going to pay more. But I think now most of e-hailing providers, including Asia Ride and Grab, they have a fixed fare.
Because it's built into the surge charge.
Yeah, so let's say how Grab calculates that based on the current situation, the traffic and estimated time, then they fix the price with the rider. Okay, this is how much you're going to pay.
Okay, so the way I see it now, the picture that you're painting is, or the picture that the data is painting, is that the people who are driving Grab is still there. The number of drivers are still there.
No, less. There's 70% less. So it's 30%
I'm not
less.
Sure, but Grab says there's 30% less drivers. They're not taking into account that these 30% maybe went to other platforms. We don't know. So the absolute number could still be the same. So my where I'm getting at is the let's assume the absolute number is the same. Even if Grab says 30% of drivers have dropped off their platform, that does not mean that these drivers are not driving on other platforms. It could be
it's a possibility.
Because AirAsia had like a very aggressive recruitment drive when they launched their AirAsia Ride app. So that's one factor. what I'm seeing is the biggest glaring data point I see is the 30 to 40% of Grab drivers not picking up not picking up ride requests during search. So that means, right, they have the option, like, even if there's search, I'm not going to pick it up. So what I see is there is more demand despite the number of drivers being the same. So assuming the number of drivers being the same, if I discount the fact that 30% drop off is drivers moving on to other apps, now the drivers have the upper hand. They choose because they are earning so much more, and they go like, okay, I can just drop. I can just not pick up calls, because it's not like how it was before during when Taxi and Grab were very competitive. Grab was just pumping incentives, like you mentioned, right? So now, because Grab is pumping less incentives into the driving, and the drivers are earning enough for them to be comfortable that they can choose not to go on search. So it means that it's a supply. It's a supply-driven market.
It depends on supply and demand, and also another thing is which is more worthwhile. So, like, for example, would you rather work at the optimal time whereby the roads are less jammed, more optimal, or go to location that is more has more cost effective, or to focus on peak hours? Because I've spoken to one Grab driver, right? So he's actually from Sri Perkembangan. So before that, he always been serving around the Klang Valley area. But now the jam's so bad, right? He ended up focusing in Cyberjaya. Because Cyberjaya, I think there's a under supply of Grab drivers, but there's demand there. So that's better because the roads are better. You spend less time in jam. It's more efficient, and it's actually much more economical that way. So he feels more less tension. Because think about it, if a Grab driver works in peak hours, he says some of the complaints is like, you're under pressure to reach there on time, you're stuck in jam, and sometimes, let's say, for example, you pick up a passenger, right, who's rushing at airport, like, this passenger cannot make it on time, and they add more pressure to the driver to drive there faster, and you can't do anything about it.
So that comes back to my point where, drivers actually have the option to choose. So back then when I was riding Grab, so before the pandemic days, which is like over 2 years ago, right? And I speak to some Grab drivers, a few Grab drivers. And most of them are very target driven. So they'll really push to achieve the target for the day. So some of them are trying to hit like 400 ringgit or 500 ringgit a day. So once they hit that, so if it's a good day, they might be able to just do like maybe 5 rides and they get that target. If it's a bad day, they probably have to work like 8 hours a day or whatever, right? So if they hit the target, they will stop. And for me, that's like a data point where I see that drivers now choose when they want to go online, because if it's a free market, like so for the Grab economy, the AirAsia ride economy, it's purely driven by supply and demand, right? What it means that if a driver wants to put in the hours, the driver will earn more than the driver that doesn't put in the hours. What I see is the drivers are now comfortable enough to say, okay, I've hit my target, and I'm okay for the day. I can just chill, because the biggest pull factor for people joining Grab and AirAsia Ride is the flexibility and the free time, and I think that's where that is one of the factors that's causing this problem. And then factor number 2, of course, is this horrendous. Have I mentioned horrendous? Horrendous traffic situation in Kuala Lumpur. I don't know what is going on.
Yeah.
I don't know. Seriously, I don't know.
Yeah, so that's why, like, even based on the report that's quoting the association, right, even though they have the chance to earn more money from the search, they refuse not to.
Yeah, because like I said, right, the people who are joining Grab, and I see some professionals, I see a few people, because they just like, look, I don't care about the corporate world anymore. I don't care about being a professional anymore. I don't want to be an architect or an engineer anymore. I just want my free time. I want to earn enough to be able to go do my hobbies. Most, if not all, of the people who are joining Grab are driven by that, are motivated by that. And I think that's the reason why we are seeing this problem.
Yep.
Because if you ask me, would I rather be stuck in a traffic jam? No matter how much, no matter how much, but no matter how much I can earn, would I rather be stuck in a traffic jam, or would I rather just stay at home and watch videos, watch YouTube all day, or whatever?
Or take a break.
Yeah, or just chillax and enjoy chendol or coffee. until the situation stop. The other thing is people who join Grab, they also enjoy driving. They like driving. They like meeting people. No matter how much you like driving, nobody likes driving in traffic.
Yes, that's right.
So that's why, like your story of this person in Sri Kembangan, he's going to Cyberjaya despite the commuting and whatever, right? To work there. That's the reason. I guess that sums up. That answers the question on why e-hailing cost is so expensive nowadays. Is there anything that you wanted to add?
So the thing we haven't answered yet is how do we solve this whole issue?
How do we solve this problem?
So like I think based on what we discussed, the number one source of the problem is the congestion. So how do we alleviate this? Because here's the thing, we've seen a lot of ministers or politicians giving solutions, and one of it was saying, we're going to solve congestion by building more highways. Great, more highways.
No.
So here's the thing, the more you build highways, right, the more people are thinking, now I can drive cars.
Yep.
And what's more disturbing is that because of this prolonged expensive e-hailing fares, right?
Yep.
I think more people will be motivated to, you know what, screw e-hailing, I'm going to buy my own car and drive. And that's going to add to the congestion. It's going to be worse. If this is not going to be solved in the long run, we're going to be the next Manila or Jakarta very soon.
I totally agree. And putting more roads to solve the traffic congestion is not the solution. There's been numerous research done by a number of countries saying that the only solution to traffic is to reduce the number of cars on the road. Ultimately just reduce the number of cars on the road.
And to increase the usage of public transport. And again, public transport, people are saying that, what's wrong? We have so many LRT lines, MRT lines.
Yeah.
Why are people not using it? And I think the obvious answer is that there's lacking the last mile connectivity.
Well, there's two things, right? Okay, so the last mile connectivity is supposed to be provided by e-hailing, right? So that's supposed to be like the stopgap, right? So people who are, let's say, if you stay in a rural, not rural area, not rural, suburban area, right? You can take a Grab to
the nearest station.
To the nearest station, or you can drive and park there. Here's the thing. It's easy to suggest, everybody should go on public transport. I agree. I totally agree. But those who have been on public transport, especially on the LRT, you will know that if today, right, 10% of the driving population in Kuala Lumpur, right, just take Kuala Lumpur, 10% of the driving population in Kuala Lumpur simultaneously all decided to take public transport tomorrow, what do you think is going to happen to the public transport system?
Well, depends what you're looking at. LRT, I'll definitely be choked.
It's going to explode. It's going to explode. LRT, buses, whatever. It's just going to explode.
But for me, it's at the end of the day, is how do we get people on board? And also, are we ensuring that the infrastructure is ready to accommodate that?
Well, I think if you ask me, if you look at LRT, people are not to say eager, but they see the utility in having our public transportation system. I for one can say that the LRT provides a very good alternative to taking public transport. I think it's great. Private transport, sorry. Yes, I think it's great. The problem is just capacity.
Yep.
Like you said, right? People who are waiting for Grab, right? And it's too long and it's too expensive, they might just buy their own car.
Yep.
Similarly, the problem is the same for public transportation. If I'm waiting for an hour in line on the train platform to go to work, and then I go inside the train and it's packed like crazy with people that smell funny or they touch people funny. You know what I'm saying? That's just huge motivation for me to stop taking public transport and just buy cars. So there has to be a fundamental change in not just our mindset, but also I think the public mindset is the public. They are driven to go with whatever that's easiest for them. And we Malaysians, we like our space. We like our personal space. We're not like Indonesia. We're not like Manila. We're not even like Japan. We're not even like China, where they don't mind
squeezing like sardines.
In. We prefer we value our private space. Now, does that mean that we don't want to go on public transport? No, we do. We do want to go on the public transport. The problem is private transport is not convenient enough. The next alternative is Grab. That's why it's so popular. The next alternative is e-hailing. That's why it's so popular. But now, like you said, right, if it's surging so much and it's too expensive, people might just go drive their own cars.
Yep.
Now, how do we solve the problem? It has to be a collective solution on how to solve this problem. the government has to come together and like really think about how to solve this problem lah. Either they temporarily ease the requirements for people to join Grab, number one. And then number two is to really look at the long-term solution, planning, and framework to really reduce traffic congestion in our cities.
Yep.
Because I don't see anybody looking into that problem right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of talks of imposing what's that congestion charge and all that. There's so many big ideas, but I think it's even the basic stuff we can get sorted out. Also, like recently, the government announced that they're going to ban personal mobility vehicles from public roads. But then again, you think about it, there's no even infrastructure for these vehicles in the first place.
Yeah.
So all these are done in a half-baked manner.
That's pretty much it, I guess. I mean, we started the show with like trying to answer the question why e-hailing is so expensive. Then we elaborated on that, and then we talked about like what is the solution. Well, the solution is obviously to reduce traffic congestion so that e-hailing drivers will want to drive again, and people will want to use e-hailing to not contribute to the traffic problem.
Yep.
So who's going to solve that problem? I don't know. I mean, if you have any suggestions, you can let us know. What do you think about the show? Let us know as well. Yeah, that's pretty much it. We are also available on podcast, so if you want to listen to us while you're stuck in traffic, you can just search for us on any and every of your favorite podcast platforms, whether it's Spotify or Apple Podcasts. We're there. Just search for Let's Talk About Soya Cincau and we're there. If you're listening to us on podcast, give us a 5-star rating because that helps the show. If you're watching us on YouTube, thanks for watching. Please drop a comment, suggest what topics we should talk about, and let us know what you think about the e-hailing traffic problem in the country. Maybe you have a great solution on how to solve the problem. We'd love to hear from you. At the same time, please do give us a thumbs up if you like the show. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And yeah, that's pretty much it. This is me. Oh, by the way, if you're listening to us on podcast, you can also drop us a voice note if you have like a really good idea or some thoughts on what we discussed today. And we'll be happy to publish it if it's like really insightful or interesting. Drop us a voice note at
Let's talk about at soyacincau.com.
Yes, that's Let's Talk About at soyacincau.com. Yeah, that's pretty much it. This is me, Amin.
And this is Alex.
Catch you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.